Hey, Johnny, how's it going, brother?
It is going amazing, man. I have had the best couple of weeks going out, talking to agents, helping our branches. I'm worn out and tired. Got home at 2 o'clock this morning, but it's going absolutely wonderful. And I will tell you this, every day I fall more and more in love with what I do and who I do it for.
Feels like you're not even working then.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, so you're getting there. We're not all the way there yet.
Because if you start saying I'm not really working, then you start getting not really paid.
It's about how you feel.
Yes.
You can feel like you're not working and be getting really paid. That's the
I'm not
dream
even
scenario,
that
right?
out there. I don't want anybody in HR that come up in my yearly review. So do you remember when you said you feel like you weren't really working?
That's great. To everybody out there, I want to welcome you to the Fly the Flag podcast. We're a mortgage show talking to mortgage people about mortgage things. I'm not going to run the video today because we're on fire with some numbers that we were just running. I don't want to bury the lead here. This episode is all about the resurgence of the 2-1 buydown, what it is, why it's beneficial, and why every single loan officer should be at least mentioning it to borrowers, because it's one of those kind of inside baseball things that the standard consumer probably isn't aware about. Content creation is near and dear to both of our hearts. Maybe it's a good topic to talk about on your next Instagram reel, Facebook post, LinkedIn article, whatever it is. But the 2-1 buy down. You're old. Can you refresh our memory on how this works? It's kind of a product from yesteryear.
It is, and to tell you the truth, when I bought or when I financed my first house back in 1994, the 2-1 buy down was something that was really popular. One of the things that you saw at that time was all of the new home construction builders in the area that I live in Houston, had it advertised everywhere. They had banners up across the garage doors on the new models. They had pamphlets on it. They had flyers on it. And it was something that was a major thing because, here's where you are. You're in a situation where for some reason, and, the reason is because we have had such low interest rates for the number of years.
Yep.
Now we're in a higher interest rate. One of the things that I think that you and I need to do a job on in letting people know that interest rates have almost nothing to do with the Fed funds overnight rates, that they have everything in the world to do with inflation.
Correct.
So mortgage rates follow inflation, not the Fed funds rate. Now, with that being said, it just makes so much sense because the cost is so low for the actual person who has to pay for it compared to the savings that the person who receives it gets. So
it's crazy. So I'm going to give you the numbers because we just ran them. And so everybody knows we were running these numbers to get them prepared. And as soon as I spouted them off, Johnny said, we got to hit record because this is some awesome stuff. So I can only speak for us at AFN. The cost for a 2-1 buy down is variable. It depends on the scenario because of the number of investors that we have in our best execution. And at any given interest rate, the best investor that we're getting actual pricing from could be different. And their pricing for a 2-1 buy down could be a little bit different. But based on the ranges that I was seeing, go ahead.
Which is a little bit different than it was in the old days.
Because in the old days, it was kind of a flat fee or a flat adjustment to price, right?
Yep.
Now it's a little bit different. It's at AFN anyway. It's a little more consumer friendly because it's really going to be priced to custom fit their scenario. But it's going to range anywhere between. I mean, we saw costs for a 2-1 buy down in the scenarios that we ran as low as 0.1%, which is kind of an anomaly. So we're going to forget about that. The typical range is going to be between 1/4 and 0.5%.
So what does that mean? Tell me what 1.25% means to a consumer, but it's not really the consumer to the seller.
Yeah, so it's quarter to 0.5% of the purchase price. Sorry to stop the podcast here. This is Mike from the future with a bit of a correction. It's actually a percentage of the loan amount not a percentage of the purchase price. We say a lot of words in these discussions. Sometimes one or two of them are a little off. Forgive us. It'll be okay. On with the show. And that's just extra fee calculated in the closing costs for the loan transaction. So what we were looking at was just taking worst case scenario, 0.5%, and say it's a $400,000 loan that somebody's doing, because it's a nice big round number. 0.5% of $400,000 is $2,000. $2,000 extra in closing costs, and in return, the borrower gets a 2-1 buydown feature, which means in the first year of their loan, their interest rate is 2% lower than the note rate. So if they would qualify for
right now is 6.5%.
If they would qualify for 6.5%, the loan is written at 6.5% for 30 years.
Okay.
But in the first year, the payments that they make are based at a 4.5% interest rate. And then in the second year, the interest rate is brought down 1 point. So 2 points in the first year, 1 point in the second year. So they're at 5.5% for the second year, and then they're back at that 6.5% for the remaining 28 years of the loan.
So what happens with that? Do they have to tag it on to the back of the loan?
There's no negative amortization. There's no calculating 6.5% and then tacking the difference back onto the end of the loan. There's none of that. It's just a discounted interest rate for the first 2 years. It's very simple.
So you're just completely buying in the first year 2% off of what standard rate is. That's what you're paying your payment based upon. In the second year, it's 1% off of the standard rate.
And maybe we should change our verbiage, because it's not just what you're paying your payment based upon. It's what your payment is.
Yep.
You're only getting charged 2% less interest in that first year. It's not like they're charging you the full interest, but only making you pay this certain amount. It's not like that. It's a discounted interest rate for the first 2 years of the loan. It's discounted by 2% for the first year and 1% for the second year. And talking about all these ones and twos makes it seem really small, really fast, because 1%, 2% doesn't sound like a whole lot.
Yeah, it's only 2%.
But on that same $400,000 loan, discounting the rate by 2% changes the monthly payment by over $500 a month. So a $2,000 fee up front is going to save you over $6,000 just in the first year. And then it's going to save you an additional $3,000 plus in the second year of the loan. And that makes it worth it, even if the buyer wants to pay for it themselves. But the additional thing about this is what, Johnny, about the current market? What are sellers doing?
Yeah, massively. They need to move their inventory, even though we're in this strange position. And one of the things that you and I are both seeing a lot of is we're seeing people want to discount their properties, and which means they're selling them under market value. What a great way. Think about this, instead of selling a property for $5,000 less than what list price is, if you gave $2,000 towards the closing cost, by giving $2,000 in theory on your $400,000 scenario, then I am giving $9,000 to you that's costing me $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
It is truly a no-brainer. And then you can go even a little deeper than that if you want to. And I want to come back and talk about marketing this, because I don't think that we're doing a good enough job. But I want to talk about the fact that anybody that I know, anybody that I consider a mentor of mine that is in the know, has the belief that interest rates are going to drop. And I am a believer of that myself.
As am I.
So that means not only can I get into that property at $500 a month savings for right now, over $6,000 a year in the first year. But if interest rates do drop, I can refinance if the new interest rate that is available to me is the same or less than what my current interest rate is, and not have to worry about the escalation.
Absolutely. So it's one of those situations where you get into that 2% lower rate for the first year. You get into that 1% lower rate for the second year. Say 16 months down the road, rates drop by a full percent. And now instead of that borrower qualifying for 6.5%, they qualify for 5.5%. Well, if they're in the second year of their 2-1 buy down, they're paying 5.5% anyway. We know that they can afford the payment. We know they can qualify for more. It's easy to qualify for refinance. Super quick and simple transaction. And in executing that transaction, they lock in that 5.5% that they're currently paying in perpetuity for the full 30 years of the loan. It really is a no-brainer. It's setting people up for success. And the best thing that I like about the 2-1 buy down is that we're not using that lower payment to qualify people for loans that they don't otherwise qualify for. This is not a qualification tool. This is purely a money management and affordability tool. This is not going to help somebody buy a house they can't afford. It is not an irresponsible lending product. It is somebody who qualifies at 6.5%. They can afford it. Their DTI is in line. Everything makes sense. But we're going to offer them a tool that would allow them to pay the 4.5% and the 5.5% for the first couple of years so they can save a little bit of money.
Now let's take it one step further. So on your $400,000 loan scenario, let's say that was, I'm just going to make something up. Let's say it was a $450,000 purchase. We're talking about a conventional product right now. It may be somebody who put 3% down. It may be somebody who put 5% down, 10%, whatever it is. But let's go one step farther with this, because one of the things that I think people don't understand is and people talk about it all the time, quickest way to wealth in this country is through real estate. No ifs, ands, or buts. In my opinion, that's what it is.
It's the most the most effective wealth building tool in the country for a reason.
If you're not in the game, if you're not in the real estate game, then you're missing out on that continued wealth building.
It's literally the short form video that I uploaded to all my channels today.
Okay.
Is titled "The Only Foolproof Real Estate Investing Strategy." And the only way to invest in real estate and beat the market is to be in real estate and be in the market.
So let me continue.
And I use some data here, and I want to bring up this data. I brought it up in my personal podcast. I'm going to bring it up here because not a whole lot of people think about this when they think about the Great Recession. Everybody always think, maybe we're at a peak. Maybe I should hold off. Yep. Values are going to go back down. Values are falling a little bit as they are. What if values go down? Should I really be buying a house right now? When values peaked back in the first quarter of 2007, prior to the Great Recession, we saw the bottom drop out of the market. But for the people who were invested long-term, and not just long-term, just kind of mid-term, did you know that it only took 6 years for nationwide home values to rebound and then some from the peak before the Great Recession? It was Q1 2007 to Q1 2013. By 2013, values, nationwide median home price was $1,000 higher than it was back in 2007. As bad as the Great Recession was for so many people, it only took 6 years for values to come all the way back and then some, which means that if you were invested in real estate, you were doing well on your investments.
One of the things that you said, I don't exactly agree with. I don't think when you said valuations are going down, I disagree with that. Valuations are not going down.
Let's say that, okay.
Appraised value is not going down.
Sellers asking prices and expectations are going down.
Sellers were asking, agents were asking tremendous amounts over value.
Yes.
And that's where it really came into. So it doesn't matter if the house is worth $300,000. If you sell it for $400,000, it's still worth $300,000. I've got an appraisal saying so. If
it's a great point.
Pay $400,000 for it now. So values aren't going down. Values are going up. And even somebody who I very rarely ever agree with, out of Tennessee, outside of Nashville area, is saying, and I really like his saying, congratulations, home values are the highest they've ever been. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, houses are as cheap as they're ever going to be. And that's what it truly is. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I want to get back to my point.
Yep.
$400,000 loan, $450,000 purchase price. Nationally, across the board, we're going to see about a 5% valuation increase in the next 12 months and the 12 months after that. So if I look at it this way, I'm saving $6,000 this year on payments, but at a 5% valuation, my $450,000 house will increase in value by about $23,000, $24,000 over the next 12 months. Then not only did I save the $6,000, not only did I make the $22,000, $23,000, yep, but I actually got into the game, as opposed to, and this is one that I no matter what, and this may sound horribly controversial or argumentative or whatever, I don't think everybody should be a homeowner. Sure. I think anybody who has any want to gain wealth should be, but there are some people, in my opinion, that need to be renters. They don't want to mess with. But if you want to build wealth, you have to buy a property. You don't necessarily have to live in it. You can actually rent it out or whatever it is you want. But you've got to get into the game. Period? No question about that. But
and a lot of the time, I don't think those comments are that controversial.
At a 5% increase in value and a lower interest rate getting you into that property, then it kind of puts you back to that time when you're like the joke, the drunk uncle, when your drunk uncle said rates are going to keep falling. They're at 2 now, but they're going to go down to 1, Yeah. And when you missed the boat on making that purchase, you now have a second chance. This is one of those ones where people say, if I had to do it over again, I would have. This is that chance.
Yeah, we're gonna get another run up. The rates at the current levels, they're just not going to last.
No,
rates are cyclical. It always ebbs and flows. The whole thing is a roller coaster ride. So they are going to come back down. But this is a way for you to choose to lower them back down immediately.
And the great thing is the products that are still out there with, there's still many programs out there, 0% down for USDA, 0% down for VA.
Yep.
There is a 3.5% for FHA, a 3% for conventional,
absolutely,
5% for conventional. This is a serious way. And think about it. In a year that everybody's talking about losing money in the stock market, losing money in their 401k, this year, if you bought a property, no matter what value, so even if it's not a $450,000, it's a $200,000 home,
you're still doing great.
Still going to gain $20,000. So you do a 3% conventional, have the seller do a 2-1 buy down. You knock your payments down by $253, $254 a month, which comes out to, in that $3,100 a year. You made $20,000 off of price valuation by putting down $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't do a very good job, and I'm not referring to you and I think that I'm referring to our industry.
Our industry as a whole.
I think
the education that's put out to the borrowers is and we're going to talk about this in the next episode when we hit record here pretty soon. But there's so much focus on the negative because negative headlines get more clicks sometimes than positive headlines. And as industry professionals, we don't do a good enough job at putting out positive information about really how good of an investment real estate is. Just from a dollars and cents perspective, a lot of people get emotional about it because it is the place that you live. And I understand that. But the fact that comes along with a monthly payment security that can't be sniffed by renting, as well as the wealth building and financial upside from an investment perspective, there's a lot to talk about there. There's a lot of good to talk about there.
Every MLO should be recording videos right now, sending it to every real estate agent in their database in their area. They should be scouring social media, finding real estate agents to make sure that they're explaining to them, because one of the things that happens if you continue to discount the price of your property, you truly are bringing down the value inside of a certain graphic area.
It's true. I saw a listing the other day. I made this as a short form video to post to all the platforms. I suggest everybody else do it as well. It was an awesome tip that I saw, so I decided to reiterate it to my audience. On Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and whatever app or website that you as a home buyer would use to browse homes from your couch at 9 o'clock in the evening, they have these things called filters. And usually people filter that they want, I want at least 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And they'll do a price filter because they don't want to go over a certain range so they can look at all the stuff in the area. But scroll down to the bottom of those filters and find this little box that says keywords. And in there, type the word credit, just the word credit. And add that to your filters, because then every listing that shows up is going to have the word credit in the description of that listing. Now, some of those are going to say buyers with good credit could qualify for down payment assistance, or buyers with good credit only because there's a lot of demand for the property in the neighborhood or whatever. But more commonly now than ever, we are seeing the phrase seller offering a credit. Seller credit. I saw one just down the street from me the other day that says motivated seller offering $25,000 credit.
Yeah, but you live out there in those $1 million California.
That's why I'm a renter, not a home. Cost of living is just more comfy this way right now. But yeah, sellers are offering credits, and they're putting that in the listing descriptions.
And if they're not, they're making a huge mistake.
Filter them.
If they're not, they're making a huge mistake. That's something that agents should be doing. That's something that MLOs should be explaining, getting that out there. It's something that is imperative right now.
Yep.
And I'm telling you today, every MLO should record a video, get it out to everybody, builders, everybody. Not all builders have mortgage companies.
That's true.
They need this information. Get this information out there, and then MLOs should be building their database.
And so let's start today, just as a whole. Any mortgage professional watching this, let's make a concerted effort to make the 2-1 Buydown something more than just a marketing tool or a fad program that comes into favor whenever rates go up high. It's much more than that. It's actually a financial tool that gives immediate return on investment for home buyers. And even if somebody wants to do a refinance with a 2-1 Buydown, that's absolutely a thing. And it's worth looking into. Even if you can't get a seller to pay for it and it's coming out of the buyer's pocket, we showed you with our example, you're paying $2,000 to save $9,000 over the course of the first 2 years of the mortgage. That's $7,000 in the green. It just makes sense. And it makes even more sense in a market like right now when sellers are willing to pay for that stuff.
Yeah, everybody should be taking advantage of this. And then one of the things that I guess that we also need to let people know in this video, is the fact that there is no clause saying that you have to remain in that loan for any period of time.
No, there's no prepayment penalties. There's no clause. There's nobody's being forced into being in that loan for 2 years.
If I bought a property right now in, let's say, October, November of 2022, and rates took a drop in March of 2023, I could refinance at that point in time at present day rates
Yep.
if it is the same or lower than what I'm paying now.
Correct. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean,
You've got to get in the
when
game.
better
That's the
options
biggest
present
thing.
themselves, they should absolutely be explored.
In one of the things, between our age differences, one of the things that I get a kick out of, and I think we need to do a better job at, is my age group as far as Gen X.
Okay.
Gen X, when we came to what Barry calls formations, that's what we all call it, formations, we were more of a 25, 26-year-old first-time home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Today, the average age of a first-time home buyer is 33.
Uh-huh.
So if you'll look at it, today, millennials are missing out on 9 years of wealth building. Gen Z is missing out on 9 years of wealth building. And one of the things that I've explained to people, and I was doing that here in the past 2 weeks with these agents, because I think they need to be doing a better job also, is letting them know that they're missing out on 9 years. But you don't have to buy a property. If you love living at mom and dad's house, if you love living in their basement, whatever it is, which I'm fine with. My 28-year-old daughter lives with me. I love that. But you should buy a rental property. You should buy an investment property, become a landlord, stay at home, let mom do your laundry, whatever it is, but at least get in the game, and get in the game sooner rather than later. Because if you'll look at it, and you're obviously much better at doing the calculations than I am, but if you're in, let's even go less. Let's say it's not a 5% annual appraised value increase. Let's say it's 3.5%. 3.5% on a median home price, $250,000 across the board over a 9-year period. You're missing out on $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in wealth building than by not doing anything or by continuing to rent.
Absolutely. And the way I like to look at it for people who could, because there's not a whole lot of people out there who just have money to spare. Maybe they do like living at mom and dad's house, and they have a little bit of money to spare, not a lot of money to spare. And they're looking at buying a little bit more crypto, or a little bit more Apple stock, or a little bit more, whatever. But instead of putting your money into things like that, which really do ebb and flow, look at the charts and the returns on investment that real estate could offer you, combine with the fact that, unlike a random stock or a random coin, right? A piece of real estate's never going to be worth nothing.
Correct.
It like a piece of real estate can't fold like a company can and be worth zero.
There's a name,
so there's security to the investment there. And then when you look at historically, even if you buy a house and you caught the bad end of everything and you were right at the peak and values start to fall a little bit, you're not going to have to wait more than 6 years historically for that to completely rebound and be right back where you were and on the way up again, unless something happens in the real estate market that is so bad it's never happened in the history of forever in this country. And I mean, when you're investing, you're just playing percentages. That's not the percentage play, is betting on catastrophe. That's not going to happen.
Well, real estate takes about a 6 year, 7 month cycle. That's what we live in constantly since we have been recording anything in real estate. Is every 6.7 years we hit a peak. So what you're doing now is you're catching on, because one of the things that we have to remember is we guys like you and I talk about the peak as if it was yesterday, and it wasn't. The peak was sometime at the end of last year. There was some fall over at the very first couple of months this year. Mm-hmm. And what you can see comparative to any other time, there was no drop. There has been no drop. Correct. Like there was throughout years past, because of credit worthiness is just the highest it's ever been. No ifs, ands, or buts. So you don't have that massive drop. We're still not building enough homes. We're still not building enough homes for the formations that are happening. We are still so far behind on inventory that we do not have the supply and demand problem. We have a demand problem, period.
Yes.
And there is nothing, if you think about it, if somebody dropped, honestly, if somebody dropped 500,000 homes on the ground, if tomorrow, out of the clear blue sky, 500,000 homes hit the earth tomorrow in our country, and they were ready to sell right now, today yep. They are for sale, and we would only be in that flat market for about 6 months.
So cyclically and based on previous years, pre-pandemic, before everything went wild, right? If somebody dropped another 500,000 homes on the market right now, then that would bring us up to a pretty normal supply for October, yep. November. That would bring us back up to kind of where it normally is. It's not like we would have an oversupply problem. That's how strong the demand is right now. So
I had somebody in my family.
Still there. The supply and demand is still strong. Demand is still strong for the amount of supply that we have. So that's why we haven't seen fall off. The fall off that we have seen has been regional.
Yep.
And focused on regions where sellers were trying to catch the tail end of an insanely hot market and just missed it. And now they're having to ask a fair value for the house,
market value,
to asking more than what it's actually
value.
Worth. Yes.
Yeah. Just like right now, some of the things that I'm watching, and I'm sure that you see this also. So there is a very large, and I'm not going to say their name because I don't want us to get into lawsuits and crap like that.
Sure.
Very large car manufacturer that's based in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
That has about the same color on their logo. And they make, so one of the things that's going on with that is they are producing a couple of vehicles that are really sought after right now. And I've got a real estate point to this. One of them happens to be an extremely well-known race car guy that lived out in California named Carroll Shelby, made it like really famous for years. That car is selling for $600,000. This manufacturer was making people sign an agreement saying that they wouldn't sell that car for 2 years because the market value on that car far exceeded what manufacturers suggested retail price was. Mm-hmm. But there's also a truck. So that car, you could buy it for $600,000 from the manufacturer. You could turn around and sell it for about $1.5 million the next day at any one of the higher end auctions. But they also build a truck, and this truck came out, and it is an electric truck, and it is, let's say it's one of the best selling trucks in the country. And the manufacturer suggested retail price on that truck is in the high 60s, low 70s, but they're selling them in some of these wholesale car clubs and stuff like that for $140,000. And people are lined up buying those trucks. So here's my point to tie it into real estate. The truck's value is $69,000, period.
Yeah.
Period. The manufacturer tells you, which means it will appraise for $69,000 when you buy it. If you decide that you need it sooner than anybody else does, and you decide to pay over value for it, it did not lose money next year when it's worth $69,000.
Correct.
It was still worth $69,000. You just overpaid for it. And you've got that choice. You can do that no matter what with anything. So the properties are not dropping in value. If you're paying what appraised value is, most likely you will be safe buying that property. You will actually even be in a better position because you're in an escalating period to where that property is gaining value. That's one of the things that I am frustrated with. Is I really want your generation to start getting into the market. The other thing that's a problem with this, and I don't think enough people are talking about it, is when people are getting into what is, considered by some a starter home.
Yeah.
If they're not leaving the starter homes and they're staying in the starter homes, that leaves no place for first-time home buyers to go when it's their turn to get into the market.
That's
so
true.
If the starter home families aren't becoming move-up buyers, so they buy the starter home, they don't have any kids, they buy a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. Now all of a sudden they have 3 or 4 kids and things like that. Now they need more space. So traditionally, we've always had this pyramid that it is the larger amount first-time home buyer, move up, and then there's luxury properties. And we need people making that move. But right now, it's flipped over, and it has been for quite some time, because we don't have that move-up buyer, which means there's no space for the first-time home buyer. And what we do is we turn around and we blame it on the builders for not building affordable housing, when it should be that group becoming a move-up buyer to make room for first-time home buyers.
That's an interesting point. That is an interesting point. I can only speak for the area that I live in.
Yes. Yeah. Completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Southern California area that I live in. If I ever see a builder working on a new community, it's move up homes.
Oh yeah. So where I'm at,
builders Texas, do not
to make
build
a comparison,
entry level homes here. They just don't.
You can buy where I'm at. You can buy for $120 a square foot easily anywhere around me, easily, on new construction, on pre-owned, existing.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard. Where you're at, I'm going to bet that number is at least double.
It's a lot.
So what is a 1,500 square foot in your area, in your neighborhood, 1,500 square foot, 322 ranch?
Oh, man. Let's see here. I'm not going to do this on the computer. I'm going to do this on the phone because it's easier. In my immediate area, and this is going to show you why I'm renting. We'll go Zillow, and I'll have it find me.
Oh, you're going to use that app?
Yep. It's easy.
Communist.
Okay. So this is right around the corner. This is no more than quarter of a mile from my house. Single story, ranch style home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1793, so 1,800 square feet on a lot. It's a decent sized lot, but it's not huge.
5,000?
6,000 square foot lot.
Decent size.
Decent size. Price has just been lowered by $11,000.
Okay.
To $988. So I live in a single story, ranch style, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 1,750 square feet. It's not a model match of that house, but it may as well be. It's very similar, and we're renting. So if we were to buy a like house in the same neighborhood, we're looking at $1 million home. Even if magic money fell from the sky and I had that 20%, $200,000 to just slap down for a down payment, my monthly payments would still go up over $1,000 a month compared to the rent that I'm paying here.
So that brings me, I've got to ask the question.
Yeah.
Hold on. I know, but so does that mean that investment properties aren't being bought at this moment in time because rents are lower than purchases? Or give me a scenario.
It means that we're lucky.
Okay.
We got lucky. We got into a house that historically had been rented to multiple people and in multiple bedrooms and things like that.
House.
And the owner just got tired of it, and they wanted to rent to a family who wanted to stay here for a while. This is our 6th year here. We're hoping that can continue for a couple more years as our daughter gets through elementary school. Just down the road from here is Chapman College, which is not a cheap college by any means. And a lot of kids go there, and there's not enough student housing. So Old Town Orange is littered with investment properties, 4 and 5 bedroom, old craftsman style investment properties. Bedrooms are small, but they're perfect for a student. So you see the investment properties in this particular neighborhood being rented not to a family like us, but it's 5 bedrooms, and each bedroom is $1,200 a month to a student. And there's 5 of those in the house, so that person's bringing in $6,000 a month in rent, and it makes the investment proposition a bit more feasible.
So do the landlords control renting to multiple people, or does someone like yourself rent the property, have a bedroom, and then rent out the other bedrooms?
Usually the landlords.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no matter what, your rent is $1,200 a month if you live in that property.
Yeah, there's a doctor that owns like a dozen houses and does them all the same way.
Okay.
And there's a real estate group that specializes in the Old Town area, that in the college town, and finding renters for it and stuff like that. So they have it all working like a pretty finely oiled machine.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's a good way to go. We're just hoping that when our lease comes up in September, that the owners don't want to kick us out and charge somebody else more. We're happy to pay a little more rent,
because
but we're not going to pay $5,000-$6,000 a month.
I've been a landlord my whole life, and one of the things I hate about being a landlord is the fact that people who don't have the pride of ownership don't treat your property like they should. Now, when you're telling me about the landlord situation there and renting out each individual, now you've got, theoretically, in that 5-bedroom house, you've got 4 other people that are your brother's keeper. And if you're going to destroy the house that I'm living in, I have a problem with that, and I'm going to call up the landlord kind of deal. So you've got people that are actually somewhat watching your back.
Yeah, holding people accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, because I hated getting the phone calls at 2:30 in the morning in one of my 2-story condos or something, and somebody saying that water's coming out of the light fixture in the kitchen. And, last time I checked, electricity wasn't water cooled. Yeah. So trying to figure, going over there and, finding some kid passed out in the bathtub with the water still on, and all that crap. I hated being a landlord. God, I hated being a landlord.
Those sound like great stories.
Hated being a landlord. Now, that 2-1 Buydown is something that people need to get out there. Record a video today, right now. Get it out to your audience. Your audience is builders, real estate agents, even homeowners that are looking at listing or may have it listed right now. Get the information out to that homeowner that has their property listed, and instead of them dropping the value by $10,000, they can make a simple investment of, in your scenario, $2,000 on a $400,000 loan and keep the value where it's at, but truly help, because the difference in dropping, and that's one thing I guess we didn't do, dropping the value by $10,000 does not change the payment by $500 a month.
No, I'll do that right now. So we take that $400,000 down to $390. That saves you a grand total of $66 a month.
That's less than 500, correct?
It's a little less than 500.
Is that less than the $250 a month in the second year?
It's just a little less than the $250 a month in the second year.
Got it. Sounds like something that makes sense for me.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time to recoup the difference there, but Yeah, the 2-1 buy downs are great. And you're, as a mortgage professional, as a loan originator, your audience is not just anybody who's party to a home purchase.
No.
Your audience is, I mean, how much would CPAs love to hear about this? How many CPAs have clients that are looking to buy a house? And what kind of value could they bring to their clients if, like, hey, I heard from Jonny and Mike that they got this thing that could save you a few $1,000s in the first couple of years, and it's kind of a no-brainer. Just go talk to them and do your mortgage, and they're gonna give you more information about how you can get a lower rate for the first couple of years, and it's not going to cost you on the back end of the loan. The different things like that. We always talk about centers of influence, circles of influence, right? It doesn't begin and end with the buyers and realtors. There's a lot of people out there who could put
Everybody's
this information
partner.
to good use. Absolutely.
Can I tell you a cool thing real quick before we get off?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I have a friend of mine that I have never met him directly. He's from Houston area. Grew up. Matter of fact, where he grew up is where my office is physically located at.
Okay.
And he and I we met. I don't think we've ever met in person, but we have known each other through social media for years. And when I say years, I'm talking like a decade or more.
All right.
And we just always kept in touch. So, and I can't mention his name yet because he just signed the offer letter today, and he lives out there where you're at. Matter of fact, a little bit north of you, but he watches our show.
Oh, well, hello to our one listener. Thank you for being that person.
Well, two, because I've got the other friend that pointed out that we had the recording problem the other day.
That's right, and we can't forget your mom. Coast. Thanks, Mom.
So both of our followers or both of our listeners. But anyway, my buddy reached out to me. He watches our show and wanted to know more information about AFN, all of those things. And it just so happens the day that this happened, the day that he called and left me a voicemail was the day that I got COVID while I was on stage, completely lost my voice, could not even speak. And I was like deathly ill. So I sent his voicemail. This is I'm trying to figure out how do I do this.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the hotel dying. I send his voicemail to Matt Schultz and John D'Onofrio.
Yep.
And say, guys, I am deathly sick in the hotel room. I have no voice whatsoever. I did not have any kind of voice. I couldn't even do this. I had no voice. And I sent them the voicemail and said, could you please help this friend of mine? What it turns out is he wanted to come work with AFN. And he has a specialized loan that, in my opinion, is one of the best products ever. And he wanted to do that with us. So, nice. And this is just like 3 or 4 weeks ago that this all happened. And then what ended up happening is we hired him. He is coming on with us.
Beautiful.
He is going to be a major role in one of our divisions that we have with a specialty product. And he called me earlier today, letting me know that he had signed his offer letter and that he could not wait for his at afncorp.com email address to come through because it was supposed to be coming through today.
That's awesome.
Tell me that's not awesome.
Connect us. Shoot him an email and connect us. I want to know more about what he's doing.
I will do it. And I want you to know because you've got the technical side of it, and especially where you being inside where most of us are not, you being in the state where most of us are not.
Yeah.
You guys can do some amazing things together.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
So
I'm all about amazing things, man.
The minute you stop hitting record, I'll tell you his name and you can go find him and I'll make the introduction.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Jonny. I appreciate it. On the two, we needed some 2-1 buy down talk. It was too much of a hot topic not to address, and it's too much of a no-brainer for basically every single buyer out there right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and got a little bit of value out of this. For our 1 or 2 people who are still listening, thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you next time.
Hey, do me one favor. I'm going to ask you a question, but as soon as I ask the question, hit stop record. So I think that there's a massive refi period of time that's coming up very soon. Do you agree, and when do you think it is?